Hi, folks. Our Transact integration is one of the most popular integrations we have into analytics. So we wanted to put a little video together that explains how this works. Last year alone, we had about 23,000 portfolios be ported across from Transact into analytics, saving an awful amount of time for our users. That's about 63 a day. But we're conscious that a lot of the literature we put in place to explain this integration is looking a little old and dated, and we don't have a video on it either. So we thought we'd freshen things up a bit and create one here. So without further ado, the kind folk at Transact have given me a login. So I'm going to log into theirs on their side. They've loaded up a couple of clients for me. But first of all, I need to set up the analytics integration. So I do that by clicking this person icon on the top right, clicking personal details. And if you scroll right the way down to the bottom, you've got the Financial Express Analytics login. Now, back in the day, we used to have to get you to put in your group name, username, and email address. Well, technology's moved on a bit since then, and you don't need to do that. If you just click on Edit and just simply specify the email address of the analytics account you're using, and then click on Save, give that a few seconds, that will save. And if I now come back to reports at the top here, now that integration has been set up, that's all I've had to do. If I come to the portfolio evaluation page within Transact and click on one of my clients, this Pamela Drayton, let's just generate her details. And you see straight away, by virtue of me setting up that link and tether, you've got these little FE icons now throughout Transact. Now, the one at the top, and there's one at the very bottom as well, allows you to pull through everything. So if your client's got 4 portfolios of 100 different holdings, you click the big icon at the top and everything will just be pulled through to one portfolio. But Transact have built this in 2 ways. You can either bring across everything, or you can actually bring across per product. So you might just want to pull across her ISA. Got a lot of funds here. So you can just click on that button and it will pull across her ISA. And equally, she's got a pension down here as well. Exactly the same idea. I can click on that button, pull across her entire pension. And those of you that are familiar with building a portfolio on analytics will be well aware that this takes quite a lot of time in our system and with any system. If you don't have a tether or a link set up, you're going to have to search for every single one of these ISIN codes. You're then going to have to pop in the units or the percentage or the value, and then it will probably take you 5 or 10 minutes to build each one of these. But again, that's the point of the integration. I don't need to do that. All I now need to do is just hit this button. So let's do that and bring that into analytics. So there we are. In a few seconds, it's just simply created the portfolio in analytics for me. Now, word of caution, you're not actually in analytics at the moment. You're just in the portfolio builder screen. It's just basically giving you a view of what it's done, and you can make some edits and some adjustments if need be. Again, worth noting that we have all the equity data and cash data as well. So if there is any cash holding, you can see it just pulls it through as pound sterling. And equally, if there's any equity holdings, like in this case, Hargreaves Lansdown, it will also pull that across. So that's not going to break that integration. But I might want to make some changes. For example, I might want to change the benchmark. So by default, the benchmark for most people will be the FTSE All Share. When I go and start creating reports in a few moments, I'll want a different benchmark to pull through, and I can edit that here. So because I also use FE Cash Calc, and I generally tend to forecast on a 4% basis when I'm cash flowing my client, there are these neat little growth rates in here. So make this a bit more specific to my client. I want her benchmark to just simply be a 4% growth rate. So I can change the benchmark there. And equally, under the settings tab at the top here, I might want to pop in some additional charges. Okay, my advisor fee plus my platform fee with Transact is XYZ. So I can just pop that in there. So I can now be rest assured that when I go and analyze this portfolio in analytics, the performance is always going to be net of not just the fund charges, but also those additional charges, the Transact platform fee and my advisor fee as well, by virtue of me putting it in there. And I can then okay that. And equally, I might want to change the portfolio name. So at the moment, it's called Transact Wrapper Personal Pension. It's not really that unique to my client. So if I click on the little save icon over here, it's popped it into a folder called Transact. So if you don't want that to appear in there, just delete that. And I can resave that as simply Pamela Drayton Transact Portfolio or Transact Pension Portfolio, whatever I want it to be called, and then click on Save. And then that's saved into the system. But as you can see, within a matter of seconds, it's pulled all that data across, built a portfolio, even loaded up a nice little diversification score down here, and now allowed me to start making some modifications before you officially save it. Now it's saved, I can go into analytics and start analyzing it. So if I pop into analytics, here's one that I made earlier. So if I come into the system, under the portfolio tab here, you will neatly find Pamela Drayton Transact portfolio that you've just pulled across from their side. So I'll add that into here. Might just change the color. I want Pamela to be blue. There's my index I want it to compare against. I found that under the indices tab, but clearly those of you that are using analytics will know you can compare that against anything you like. And let's just start off with some simple analysis. So I want to just throw that into a performance graph over the last 5 years and generate. And we'll start here, just showing, well, look, Pamela, over the last few years, you're consistently outperforming that benchmark we set. And again, that benchmark can be whatever you like. And I'll PDF that, send that across to the client. If I wanted to get a bit more sophisticated with this, obviously there's loads of different charts you could throw that data into. I could throw that into a regular savings withdrawals chart, maybe over 5 years, and specify, well, actually, I don't want to show a lump sum. The client's got about 722,000 in total. Actually, I think that portfolio was a little less than that, wasn't it? Let's just say it's a 400,000 in that portfolio. And bear with me, so I think it was 720. Let's put 720 in there. And then thereafter, I want to withdraw £2,000 a month. And if you click on generate, it does exactly that. So it will start off at 720, withdraw £2,000 a month, and actually show you almost kind of cash flow in reverse. And we can show the client that, look, over that long period of time, you would have been able to achieve that level of income, £2,000 a month, but equally the level of capital has also grown as well. If I want to start creating reports off the back of this data, you can click on this little fact sheet icon next to Pamela Drayton. And within a few seconds, it creates a nice little medium scan. And that will show me everything I want to know about this particular portfolio. Again, in seconds. I've had to spend 2 or 3 seconds bringing that across from Transact. And now I can start creating all this rich content. And there's the performance of Pamela versus the benchmark. There's all of our underlying holdings that we've pulled across with the ratings, the charges. There's all the ESG scores. If any of those funds have a new SDR label, that will pull through as well. There's the asset allocation, the regional split, sector split, and there's some nice little performance graphs of that particular portfolio. If I want something, again, a little bit more sophisticated on reporting, won't go into this in too much detail, but under the reporting tab over the right-hand side, I could potentially throw that portfolio into a custom portfolio report builder. If I just deselect that index on the left, I can take her portfolio, throw it into one of my gold reports. You can build your own report in here. I can add in some bells and whistles as well. I can even add a little commentary to that report as well. And the moment I hit generate, okay, admittedly, it takes a few seconds to load up, maybe 20, 30 seconds or so. Again, here's one I did earlier. It will create something a bit like this that will now go into a lot more detail. And this detail is what I want to show the client. This is the cover page. Then it shows all of my underlying holdings, and you can see there the actual values have been pulled across because we know the unit holdings now because of Transact, so we can show you the valuations. And then underneath that, the performance of the portfolio versus the benchmark, looking at the underlying holdings. Again, I personally want to show bar charts. I want to look at the ratings of every single fund. I want to look at ESG scores and those SDR labels as well, if relevant. And then the scatter chart of the portfolio, then the asset allocation, then the Phonometrica growth and defensive split, and then that diversification report. And then because I want them, I've asked for all of the fact sheets to be tied in at the end, and the kids' documents if I want them. And finally, a nice little glossary at the very end of that. Now, that's a bespoke report, so clearly not all of the reports need to be 30 pages. You can design one that's a lot smaller for certain clients. And just lastly, I might want to risk profile this client. So if you come into the portfolio tools tab, actually worth pointing out, you've also got the MPS directory. So if I wanted to compare her portfolio to one of the MPS providers, then we've got all of the MPS data now on the database. You can obviously select just MPS providers, have that pulled through to analytics and compare her portfolio to one of those. But for this particular case, I want to risk profile her. So portfolio tools and investment planner, that will load up our risk profiling tool. I can find her in here. If I just type in Pamela, that should find my client. There she is, Pamela Drayton. So load her up. The plan that loads up down here is the one that I created for her last year. So I could just simply review that. I'll start a brand new one up here. So let's start a brand new risk profiling process for Pamela. You only need to do 3 things here. I'm going to call this her pension review ATRQ 2024. Tax wrapper is going to be personal pension. What's her current portfolio? If she has one, if she doesn't, we can just leave this. But again, because we've pulled that across from Transact, this will be available for me. So this will load up all of my existing portfolios in analytics, and I can now find Pamela in here and now tether and link that to this particular plan. So again, another benefit of having this integration in place. Now, I could go through the process of her filling out a brand new questionnaire again, either email that to her or fill it out in person with her. But there's no need. She filled one of these out last year. She came out as X. We've reviewed that, discussed that before I've come onto analytics, and we've agreed that that risk profile is still relevant as of today. So we're just going to set that. So I can skip the questionnaire completely because this is just a review. And then it asks me, okay, well, what do I want to set the client at? So I'm going to suggest that she's same as last year, long and a risk profile 4. And I can now set that I can explain why down here, and then click on save. And that saves that particular plan for me. And now I can have a look at some suitable portfolios. So, okay, we agree that you're the same risk profile, Mr. or Mrs. Client. Are there any other portfolios or solutions out there that would be better served you investing into as opposed to investing in what you've currently got at the moment? So this is a suitable portfolios page that will load up that will show me all of my solutions in my centralized investment list. Essentially, it could be model portfolios, it could be funds. And it's telling me at the very top here, if you're going to be considered a risk profile for long, you should have an FE risk score between 80 and 90. So you can see that Pamela Drayton's portfolio is between 80 and 90. And these are some of the solutions that I have on my panel that could also be relevant for that particular client. Now, maybe I don't want to use them, so I can just simply go ahead and select Pamela Drayton's portfolio to the next stage, or I might want to start comparing it. So actually, let's compare Pamela's versus the Premier Miton multi-asset growth. So it's a bit of a research page, this, so I can compare that portfolio very quickly against Premier's, and I can start looking at the performance differences between them, the holdings differences, where they invest. Can look at performance in a bit more detail, so dynamic charting that allows me to look at 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and discrete as well into bar chart, and also break down your asset split, your sector split, your regional split. Now, if I did want to move my client into the Premier Miton portfolio, I might want to create a switch report to then have that on file to explain the reasons why I'm going to be using something like Premier. So if you click on the little switch report down here, and then I'll just simply type in my name and then download. And that loads up a nice little switch report, cover page, and a final page as well that shows Pamela. Well, look, Pamela, this is where you are at the moment. All of that data we pulled across from Transact. This is where we're now proposing you move to. They're both the same risk score. They're both 4 out of 5. But these are the main differences that I'm going to be using to justify you transferring from one to the other. We've got charges, we've got volatility, we've got diversification, the performance, the asset allocation of the holdings. And there are the holdings that, again, we pulled through from Transact, and the reasons why we're suggesting you move across to Premier or MPS or a collection, whatever. But in this particular case, I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's relevant. I think Pamela should just continue investing in what she has at the moment. So we're going to tick that and confirm selection to lock that in. And then the final thing I want to do on here is just create a nice little report for her to confirm the reasons why. So let's complete that. And then that will load up a nice little review page. It would just give me some assessment of the portfolio versus that benchmark again. And if I click on Report Center, this will give me all of the different pages available to me to produce a nice report to summarize why we're just going to continue with a risk profile 4 and why we're going to be sticking with her solution that we've just pulled across from Transact. So this particular report, I want to throw a cover page in there. I want to confirm the 4 long risk profile. I want to also confirm what a risk 4 long means. I'll show you that in a second. And then what report do I want to load up? Well, it's not going to give me the opportunity to add a switch or a comparison report because I don't need to compare it against anything like a Premier Miton, etc. So they're grayed out, but it will offer me the ability to put in a nice portfolio report. So I want the detailed one as opposed to the summary. I can add in the fact sheets and the kids documents to this. I won't bother in this case, and I can add a little signature page at the bottom as well, but I'll just generate this and take a look at that for a second. And this is a nice risk report here. It gives me my company logo, details of the client, then the confirmation of the risk profile. So you're a risk profile 4 long, Mr. or Mrs. Client, for these reasons. It gives me a little signature page, losses report as well. So what does a 4 long actually mean? Well, there's a description of it. There's a target asset allocation, and there's the highs and lows you'd have experienced over the last 20 years by investing in an asset that takes or carries that level of risk. And there's the possibility of losing set amounts. And then finally, the reasons why we're still continuing to invest in your solution that we've just pulled across from Transact, Mr. or Mrs. Client, that is considered a 4 long, so it's perfectly suited for that level of risk. The performance is good, the volatility is suitable, the charges are competitive. There's the diversification, which is medium, and then there's all of your solutions and their charges. There's the ESG scores and the SDR labels, if applicable. There's the performance versus benchmarks, they're still looking strong. There's the discrete data, and there's asset split, sector split, regional split. And I will now, that's PDF'd. I can send that across to the client via the portal, whether that be a cash cow portal or a CRM portal, for them to sign off to confirm that yes, we continue to be we continue to feel that this solution is suitable for you, as is the risk profile. So I appreciate that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but that's essentially how you can take, well, first of all, set up the integration with Transact at outset, then pull the data across into analytics, and there's a bit of a flavor of what you can do with that data once it's in our side. And there's a further integration being set up as I speak that will allow me now to push that portfolio directly into cash calc and start creating variable growth rates off the back of that. So watch this space. That should be with us fairly soon, hopefully. Now, on the left-hand side, if you want any further information about any part of analytics, if you just click on the Contact Us button at the bottom left, you've got the help desk number and the email address, and equally, you've got Chat with an Expert in the bottom right. Thanks for watching.